The First Descendant is a huge, complex game, and honestly, this is my second attempt at writing a script. Let's cut straight to the point. Is the game good? Yes, it's very good, and it's free. There's a small problem, and that's that the game is by Nexon. While I have played and enjoyed their games in the past, such as MapleStory and Atlantic Online, it'd be foolish to ignore the recent controversy and lawsuits surrounding MapleStory that made headlines earlier this year. Nexon was fined $9 million for rigging the rates of their loot boxes and lying about the rates of the items within these crates. Plenty of articles covering Nexon slowly reducing the rates that these loot boxes dropped to cubes, an essential item for enhancing in MapleStory. The other big negative is their use of a kernel level anti-cheat. While I am quite techie, and I have in fact built many PCs over the years, including the one I'm using right now. No, I know it's not that big of a deal, but I've never got to show off how cool my new PC looks, so yeah. But from my understanding, the kernel is a very deep level within the operating system, and software that have access to this can basically see everything and anything you're doing on your PC. There have been plenty of games recently receiving backlash for using such anti-cheats, including Helldivers. Due to this game being published by Nexon, I actually said I would never play it. But now I have well over 70 hours in about 2.5 weeks. I've finished the base campaign, and I've farmed for my own brand new descendant called Enzo. If you are a fan of Destiny, or more specifically Warframe, you will love this game. It is a perfect cross between the two. Your general gameplay takes part in these small overworld zones where you'll meet players from Steam, Xbox or PlayStation and take part in missions that involve you eliminating a certain amount of Vulgus, defending a drone and killing any incoming Vulgus, defending a research station by killing incoming Vulgus, or killing some nearby Vulgus for their DNA samples, or destroying Kuiper crystals while being attacked by the local Vulgus. The cool thing is, doing all this killing you'll be getting drops left and right. New weapon upgrades, modules to further enhance weapons and descendants, reactors to boost the power of your abilities, components to give you extra defensive stats and materials to craft all sorts of powerful gear. This makes upgrades and progression feel much faster than Warframe, at least in the early game. Crafting also feels like it's easier than Warframe when you first get your head around the in-game access panel, and although it's been a good while since I last played Warframe, I feel like it was more limiting in how many things you could craft at once. I might be wrong, so please feel free to correct me in the comments down below. In the First Descendant, however, you can have as many crafts going at the same time as you want. The only thing you can't do is queue multiple identical crafts at once. One other great thing is once you've discovered a decent farm for rare materials, nothing seems too hard to get hold of. Despite all this, like Warframe, the game is a heavy grind. There are 3 things that will be leveling up as you play. Again, just like Warframe. First, you'll be leveling weapon proficiency all the way to 40. On top of that, you'll be leveling up your descendants, who also have a proficiency level that once again caps at 40. And then lastly, you've got your mastery rank, that levels up as you level up brand new weapons and descendants for the first time. Unlike Warframe though, there's no trial to reach the next level of mastery. You simply visit Prime Hands in the main hub of the game, Albion. So, what's the point? If there's no trial, why not just give us the level up? The max mastery rank for now seems to be 30, and the cool thing is as you level up, you'll actually get extra mod capacity on your gear and descendants. It's not loads, so it doesn't feel like you need to rush to get there for your build to actually work, but it's hopefully enough to make a small difference by the time you do get there. I flip-flopped a lot during my time beating the campaign. At first the game surprised me with how hard some of the parts were, but once I just stopped and reminded myself that this game is just like Warframe, the game became extremely easy, and I soloed every single mission until about halfway through the White Knight Gulch, where my 30k defense Ajax was just not enough, and I started to get one-shotted against certain bosses. From here on out I swapped between Ajax and Enzo, and I stuck to online play, and I finished the story within a game of being stuck on the White Gulch missions. Overworld missions never really got hard, which I suppose is a good thing since you have to farm these a lot at the end game, though it's best to do that in hard mode. Thankfully, even a really basic bunny build can do this pretty well, so it doesn't take a large investment of time or resources to get started. What did start getting surprisingly hard were the Colossi fights. The Pyromaniac was the first one I got a little bit stuck on. Not pointing fingers, but there were a lot of squishy bunny players out there getting absolutely domed in these fights. Maybe solo play would have been easier, but unfortunately I just couldn't output anywhere near enough of the damage since it's time limited. The only other content worth mentioning are void crystals and reactors. The crystals themselves are incredibly easy. Most of them are very slow, but there is one known as the Bunny Cave, which is absolutely amazing XP farm. Reactors on the other hand are surprisingly tough, but not always for the right reasons. Sometimes it's just annoying mechanics, such as the one I needed to kill for an Enzo part. This boss was so tanky, I had to tactically die to get my ammo back. On top of that, he had a phase where he summons these balls that actually rotate which ones are damageable. If you take too long, they repair and regenerate themselves. What's more is he would sometimes put up walls in your face to stop you from being able to shoot these balls, or even just clip them into the low ceiling. It was very frustrating. Let's talk very quickly about Descendants. The game opens up and you get a choice of 3 starters: Ajax, Viessa and Lepic. I picked Ajax, so I'll only really talk about him. He's a void type, which matters. Void crystals all have a type connected to them, and you'll need to match that type in order to damage them. There's currently not that many elements, so there isn't an immediate gotta catch 'em all feeling. One of each is plenty. Picking Ajax I think was the best idea. He's extremely tanky, boasting really high defense, and that's exactly what I leaned into, popping as many defense increase modules as I could get my hands on, and making sure all my Kuiper shards went into these mods. For the most part I could face tank absolutely everything, except poison for some reason. What's also great about Ajax is his Q ability puts up this shield that scales with defense. This shield reflects damage back onto attackers, and honestly I think this ability is the only way I managed to beat some of these void bosses. Farming Descendants can be a huge pain, but it doesn't have to be. Some of them are incredibly easy to farm. Enzo is not one of the easy ones. If you're looking just to expand your roster, then you should aim for Bunny, which the game forces you to get, but this is a good thing by the way. Bunny is amazing and she's going to be a huge help when farming. Blair, Freyna and Sharon are 3 other easy to farm Descendants, as their components drop whole and they don't need crafting. And I believe all of their parts have a 20% drop rate too, so that's pretty decent. What is not easy to farm is the ultimate variants some Descendants have. These are Ultimate Ajax, Lepic, Viessa, Bunny, Glay, and most recently Valby. Honestly, I am absolutely terrified to put some of these characters on screen. I have a feeling YouTube is going to slap me with a good old demonetization badge. But don't focus on these Descendants though, as a lot of them can only be obtained from hard mode void bosses. So once you get your blueprints for these Descendants or weapons, what do you do with them? You can craft them into full components and then eventually use the components to craft a full Descendant or weapon. Crafting does take a lot of time, not just farming for the blueprints and then the materials needed, actual time. Weapons seem to take around 4 hours, where Descendant components take about 8 hours each, and then another 16 hours to craft with the components. I think Ultimate Descendants take even longer, but I'm not there yet. You can pay money to speed these up, but as I said earlier, you can craft multiple things at once, so I usually just have something crafting all the time. You can also craft materials used to reroll weapon substats, or items used to swap an item level of a weapon onto another weapon. This is extremely useful, since the legendaries you craft can be brought up to match whatever item level you're currently using. If you've never played Warframe, modules might be a bit confusing to you. One of the first videos I intend to make after this is a breakdown on what to max first. So what are modules? Simply put, they are extra accessories that change the stats of your weapons and Descendants. Most of them only improve your stats, but some do trade a high value of damage, for example, at the loss of some survivability. What might confuse new players is the rarity of mods doesn't necessarily represent how important they are. My first 4 maxed mods were all blue, and I still run them on every single Descendant. All they do is give you extra health, defense, shield and resistances, but it massively helps. After that you can slowly work on damage, duration, cooldown, stuff like that. Some modules will actually increase the amount of mods you can slot on your Descendant. Things like Shock Punch. It's probably worth giving one of these mods a high priority to be leveled, and stick with it for a while. I chose short sword for honestly no reason. I see most people using the mid-air grapple hook mod, but I didn't have one and I wanted more mod capacity. Lastly are Transcendent mods. These actually are character exclusive and change how one of the skills works. The last thing I want to cover is the monetization of the game. We do actually have a battle pass, not surprising, but I'm quite surprised because 1, it's fairly cheap, but 2, the premium version doesn't really look worth it. You need to purchase it if you want to max out the legendary weapon from the pass, but since I accidentally dismantled my first one, I guess I can't do that anyway. With everything being relatively easy to farm in game when you reach the farming part of the game, I really don't see it worth buying. Descendants are all outright buyable from the store, but I feel like doing that kind of takes away the point of the game. And I thought the same thing about Warframe. The difference is that Warframe's prime packages are shockingly good value. You get a prime frame as well as several weapons, a reactor, usually some cool cosmetic stuff, and the crazy part, platinum. This game charges a lot of money for their ultimate packs, and unfortunately it costs their microtransaction currency to purchase, instead of it rewarding it as part of the pack. We do also have quite a few options for skins for characters, and they're all pretty cool. Some of them are possibly the most revealing outfits I've ever seen in a game, but the rest of them look really, really cool. The First Descendant is a really complex game. I tried to keep everything brief as I want to get working on guides to help newer players reach hard mode, as I feel like the game really opens up after that. So you can expect deep dives into each of the sections I covered in this video. Despite the issues I mentioned at the start, and the not so good performance the game suffers from, I'd 100% recommend giving this a try and downloading it. Also, side note on the performance, while I don't think this is a fair excuse, DLSS does fix all the problems. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please consider subscribing, liking, and even commenting down below for the algorithm. Thank you, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye bye.